I call to order the March 18th meeting of the Conestoga Valley Board of School Directors. Excuse me. I'd like to welcome all of you that are here as well as those that joined us online. And to start, will you please join me in the pledge of the flag? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Martin, will you please give us the attendance?
8 school directors present tonight. Dr. Martin is absent.
I'd note that we also have the superintendent and his administrative cabinet in attendance. This is our second meeting of the month. Much of what we do is related to work that was brought before us last week, and they are listed in the consent agenda. They're either already discussed or are routine in nature. All agendas and related public documents are posted on our district website. Are there any changes to the agenda and the additions, subtractions, or deletions?
Yes, there was an update to the superintendent's report today. We added a new hire. It's noted in red print, and we removed several recommendations.
Any questions on those changes? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? If not, the agenda is approved. We'll start as usual with board commendations, which is an opportunity for the board to recognize students and staff for outstanding achievements. Congratulations to Conestoga Valley High School wrestlers Tegan Rubel and Abdul Alcala and Tal Stoltzfus, who competed at the District 3 South Central Region Class 3A Championships. All three wrestlers were victorious on the opening day of the competition and advanced to the second day. Rubel and Alcala's performance on the second day then qualified them for the PIAA Class 3A Championships at the Hershey Giant Center. 8 wrestlers were also named Lancaster Lebanon Section League 1 All-Stars following the conclusion of the 2023-24 regular season. Head coach Charles Combs was named Section 1 Coach of the Year, and assistants Lucas Ortiz and Steve Bond were named Section 1 Assistant Coaches of the Year. The following teams athletes were recognized: Caden Yanarella, Luke Morley, Tegan Rubel, Luke Needham, Abdul Alcala, Tal Stoltzfus, and on the second team, Tanner Kane, an honorable mention to Sean Marley. Congratulations to 4 Conestoga Valley High School girls basketball players who were named Section 2 All-Stars. Gabrielle Morgan and Tia Logan to the second team, Bella Johnson, Defensive All-Star, and Adele Hartlib, Academic All-Star. Congratulations to Sawyer Espenshade, boys basketball player, who was named the Lancaster Lebanon League 2 All-Star second team. Congratulations to juniors Samantha Radwanski, who was named Paradise Rotary Student of the Month. She was recognized for exemplifying the importance of giving back to others and placing others before self. Congratulations to high school bowling team, who earned several postseason honors following the conclusion of the 2023-24 regular season. Teammates Ryan Muckle and Josiah Kessler were named Lancaster Lebanon League 2 co-MVPs. The pair was also Section 2 All-Stars. Muckle led Section 2 in average, while Kessler boasted the highest 300 game among all section bowlers this season. For those that are not bowlers, that's a perfect game. In addition, the team qualified for the state championships as one of only 12 teams to do so. Congratulations to several Conestoga Valley High School science students who had successful showings at 2 different science fairs. Each year, CV holds its own science fair, and the following students received awards: Samantha Savaglio, Grand Champion; Caleb Knoll, Champion People's Choice; Jacqueline Kelly, Reserve Champion; and Cora Glacken, Faculty Honor Award. Several of those students went on to take part in the annual North Museum Science and Engineering Fair. Savaglio got a 3rd place in the annual Animal and Behavior Science category, with her project Social Media versus Reality. Is there a correlation between social media use and mental health in students at CB High School? I'd love to see the results of that study. Note, when an honorable mention in the same category with this project, the impact of food abundance on dominance behavior of North American passerines, which led me to my dictionary to find out what passerines were. They are birds with an anisodactyl arrangement of their toes, 3 front claws and 1 rear claw. So we're all a little smarter for her project.
I guess that.
Superintendent's comments.
All right, good evening. Before my comments, I'll just add on to the board commendations. Our bowling team did make the state qualifying, as Idette mentioned, and they ended up finishing 8th in the state, so not too shabby. So didn't bring home the state championship, but I'll take 8 out of all the teams across the state. And it was exciting. I was able to go for a little bit this past weekend at Leisure Lanes, and first time I ever went to a high school bowling championship.
And
It
the
was
first time
quite
I
an
heard
event.
such a young person bowling a perfect score. How about that? I did that once, but it took 3 games.
All right, so on to my comments. I'm excited. I have 3 future Buckskins to introduce to everybody this evening. We was talking earlier before the meeting started. I feel we're a little bit ahead of the 8 ball with our hiring for next school year. All of these positions are for teaching positions that will start at the beginning of next school year, so not for current vacancies. We will start ladies first. Leah Grable. Give a little wave, Leah. Leah was an elementary and special education major from Shippensburg University. She actually graduated last year and decided to stay at Shippensburg because she's a student athlete. She's a track and field, I'll go as far as saying star at Shippensburg, and decided to take her 5th COVID year that the NCAA allows, where she started on her master's degree in literacy. So she is going to be joining us as an elementary teacher next year. As I mentioned, served on the track and field team at Shippensburg, and I believe, have you already gone or are going to nationals?
Already went.
Already went.
Yeah.
So, congratulations. We're excited to have Leah join us. Next, we have Cameron Schott. If Cameron looks familiar, that's because he student taught here a few years ago. He also did a long-term sub stint with us several years ago as a social studies teacher at the high school. He spent the last 2 years as an 8th grade social studies teacher at Palmyra. He has his social studies education degree from Millersville and is chomping at the bit to get back to CB, so we're excited to have him back. And finally, Charles Godfrey. Charles is also has his social studies Bachelor of Science from Millersville. He is also just now wrapping up a master's degree, or has wrapped up his master's degree in reading from Kutztown University. He currently is a teacher at Wilson Area School District, where he's worked since 2018. But prior to that, he spent several years teaching in both Virginia and North Carolina, and also did a little bit of coaching as a wrestling coach and football coach. So we're excited for the experience and talent he's bringing to us here. So welcome. We do have, as Ms. Martin mentioned, we have a 4th teacher who's being approved tonight, who was a last minute addition who couldn't make it tonight, but we'll make sure we recognize her at a future board meeting. Congratulations. I'm glad to have all of you here. Welcome.
And welcome to you.
That
Board
concludes my-
comments. Any board comments on recent activities? Correspondence, Mrs. Martin. Then we'll move on to Dr. Mansinger's presentation from the middle school.
We have the whole team here tonight. So Kara Fraser and Eric Collier are going to join me. I'm in the middle. Okay. Well, thank you. We're excited to tell you a little bit, an update on our TSI plan, but also just some really exciting things that are going on at the middle school.
So here you see our strategic focus areas for student learning. One of the big ones that we focused on this year was incorporating the CV instructional model and big ideas and characteristics and essential questions into teaching and learning. Here, we take a look at our comprehensive plan priority areas. This school year, we've dived into the Modern Learning Curriculum Project. GHMS has heavily focused on weaving the profile of the CV learner and embedding those characteristics into our curriculum writing. Another area of our focus has been our MTSS model in trauma. Our school and staff are being trained on implementing processes to support trauma-informed practices and approaches. And our MTSS has had a focus on Tier 1 best practices as well as providing Tier 2 and 3 supports for students in reading and math instruction who are struggling in those areas.
Can I ask who's with you?
Yep, this is Kara Frazier. She is one of the assistant principals at the middle school, and Eric Hollinger is our other assistant principal at the middle school. Kara primarily focuses with 7th grade and part of 8th grade, and Eric is focusing this year on 6th grade and part of 8th grade as well.
Here we have our profile of the CV learner, which has been our North Star to help us prepare our students for their future and helping us to create curriculum that will help our students meet their future goals.
So this year, the GHMS was designated as a targeted support and improvement, or otherwise known as TSI for this year. And that is the early warning system that's sent out from the Pennsylvania Department of Education. And it really is a call to attention to the growth and achievement data at the middle school. And it is looking specifically at the middle school in comparison to all the other middle schools across the state. So for the 23-24 school year, the middle school was identified for TSI in the ESL subgroup. And for next year, 24-25 school year, we have been identified for TSI in the ESL, Hispanic, and economically disadvantaged subgroups. So in the beginning of the year, right around August, we presented our TSI plan, and that was created from a group of parents, staff, teachers, and community members. And in that work, the committee picked 2 essential practices that PDE recommends for the improvement team. And we decided to focus heavily on essential practice 3, which is using a variety of assessments to monitor student learning and adjust program and instructional practices, and essential practice 12, which is the implementation of an evidence-based system, which is our PBIS, or Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. So from that, then, our building team, and as a focus, we have really taken a look at a rigorous standards-aligned curriculum in math, ELA, and our Literacy for Life class, which is only given at the 6th grade level, PBIS, and our culture and community of GHMS. So this summer, we started the Modern Learning Project, and that started with ELA. So we had 12 ELA teachers from 6th to 8th grade really dive in the summer. We had 9 math teachers in grades 6 through 8. And here are some pictures. This is a new poetry unit in Miss Strobel's 7th grade class. They were doing a poetry slam, and they had the whole room taken over, and the kids presented their poetry at the end of the unit. One of the focus areas that we've had throughout the Modern Curriculum Project is working and collecting student feedback and giving the opportunity for students to provide reflection. So here are some of the examples. Ms. Strobel, at the end of her unit, gave out a survey to the students, and this is what they had sent back about how much they loved the new unit, and then gave her suggestions and feedback, which then she took into place as they were prototyping the new curriculum.
So we have been focusing on our growth and achievement for all students, which is part of Essential Practices 3. This year, we've had a goal to utilize our CDT data to monitor student growth and provide us insight as to what areas we need to target for their instruction. We have given the CDT twice this year. This graph shows an overall growth from fall to winter in both ELA and math scores.
Could you explain CDT scores?
stands for Classroom Diagnostic Tools, and that is the whole building assessment that we use that aligns with the standards and the eligible content and really gives teachers an understanding of where students are
At
in
the
learning.
moment.
Yep, and learning those skills and standards. So it's not based as much on achievement as giving insight into the classroom and instructional practices.
More for growth. Okay, thank you.
And here is a picture of our IXL data. So we use our CDT scores and IXL data to enhance student learning and to aid in the identification of students who may need additional academic assistance. Students' individual data is reviewed with all students in our school-wide data meetings. So that's just a picture of our skills that we have progressed in throughout this school year so far in 6th through 8th grade in math and ELA.
One of our big goals this year was to begin the conversation of student data and allow students time to actually take a look at their data, set goals, and reflect on where they want to be, and interact with what they are doing in the classroom. So we started our first data meetings with the students right at parent conferences, and then students had the opportunity to use their data with their parents and share what's going on. This past week, we finished our second round of student data meetings. So there's an example of our adjusted form that the students went through, though a little bit more reflection this time around. And we also created 2 new parent resources that will be going home in the next week to parents about our data meetings and the assessments that we've been using. And then we also included our video. So Ms. Frazier and I recorded a video that we send out so all students are hearing the same message. They're working through the data at the same time, but it's individualized to their own specific data on their sheets. And then we were able to incorporate our video into 2 other languages, so all students in the building, so it's translated into Spanish and Haitian Creole, so all students can access the data meetings at the same time.
I have a question.
You don't want that video.
Nope, you can watch that in your own time.
On the screen before, you had thousands of skills.
Yep.
How was that measured? Because there's not that many kids in the school.
Yep, so students, part of going through the data meeting is each student has a prescribed set in the IXL. So the teachers can assign different skills, noticing areas that they need to work on, but IXL will also recognize different target areas and provide recommendations for the students. So during our win time or what I need period, students have time to go in and work on skills that the teachers prescribe, but then also work on some other recommended skills that they may need extra practice in. And so that is showing mastery of skills and then also proficiency in lessons.
Sorry for going backwards. Could we go back one more screen, please? No, another one, I'm sorry, to 10. The very bottom, the darkest green,
Yes.
is that the ones that are not yet proficient?
Those are the ones that are proficient. Yep. It's moving up. So proficient is the largest number, and then skills mastered. So even
What's the very bottom? I see 4 different levels here. No, I see 2. The very bottom, the darkest green.
Right.
so they would be anything from like grade level and below that the students
And
as they're
this is
working.
this is not cumulative.
Just
Okay.
for this year. Yep. But students are really working hard. We've had some different competitions and challenges and tried to make it fun as part of it as they're learning new skills and practicing.
I like this piece, where you give the students ownership of their score. And you review that, they can focus on what they need to focus on. That's smart.
I don't want to interrupt your presentation, but I think based on Mr. Talley's comment, I wanted to add to that. I want to commend this team in the middle school for what, we hear the term data-driven a lot in education. I cringe every time I hear that because I don't think we should be data-driven. I think we should be kid-driven and data-informed. And data is good to inform us on what we need to do to support kids. And I think the middle school's done a great job of balancing that because they are bringing in some new data tools and it looks like it's all about the data, but they're balancing that with what's the story behind that kid and why they might need extra support or why they need help. For every kid who's underperforming, there's a reason why. And they're really, it's just about creating that culture around data. And not that it's all about numbers, but how we can use that to really get to the heart of why a student either is excelling or not excelling and what we need to do to support them or even excel them or accelerate them and push them. And so it's tough to kind of create that culture, but I think the middle school is doing that. And this slide exemplifies how they're getting students to buy in and students to own it. So sorry to interrupt your presentation, but I wanted to
It's okay.
I'm
mention that.
gonna do it real quick too, just curious. That state that came out where we're ranked, where we need to focus on stuff, was that 7th and 8th grades or 6th, 7th and 8th, or both kind of all? That's what.
The whole building.
Well, I meant like,
Yep.
are we compared with other 6th, 7th and 8ths, or are we compared with 6th, 7th, 8ths and 7th, 8ths, like it's all middle school, junior?
I believe it's just middle school, all middle schools.
Cause I know we added
Yep.
6th grade, so that kind of changes how you look at numbers, but if we're being,
The
So
state
yeah,
goes
this
by
orange
grade
is basically-
band, they're not necessarily looking at what the
Okay,
configuration of
that's
your
what
buildings
I
are.
was just curious
Yeah.
about that.
How often do you review this with the students?
So, right now we're doing quarterly. However, our fourth quarter will be towards the end of the school year and pick right back up in August. So it's not the same as 4 exact times in the school year. So about quarterly trimester,
So
once
the
a
students that are
trimester.
showing growth, they get to see how well they're doing. I believe nothing succeeds like success, and this actually shows them that they're doing better. Are there any that fall in the advanced area?
Yes.
I know you focus on those that need
Mhm.
growth.
Yep, and we're looking at different ways that we can support students who are ready for the next step or accelerate in our building schedule and taking a look at that for next year too, in ways that we can put programming in place to support
Have the
students for that.
students taken their PSSAs this year?
Not yet, April.
Not yet, so we're hoping we see some of this reflected in PSSA and PVAS scores.
Mhm.
'Cause I think the board has been really focused on what's happening with middle school achievement. Okay,
Yep.
go on.
Students and staff,
Here we go again. All right, there's your
Sorry,
video.
there's my video.
All right, so we're gonna look at PBIS next. So PBIS has been a key contributor to helping us provide a positive school climate and environment this year. We're currently in year 1 fidelity. We have classroom lessons and activities that are taught and reviewed during the year. We look at 3 times throughout the year, beginning of the school year, to do like a full PBIS for the whole school, and then we do reboots back from winter break, and after spring break, we'll do another one as well. We're continuing to move forward with PBIS, and recently we did a whole staff training where we focused on classroom matrices for each teacher in the classroom. And that's one of the examples that you can see up there. Looking at this slide, so at the top there, the pictures you see are it's actually a brochure that our MTSS PBIS coordinator created that we hand out to students and families we had available at back to school nights and other events, and also hand out to new students when they arrive so they know what to expect when they're coming to the middle school. We created and sustain our positive and respectful climate. Students participate in weekly lessons with Character Strong, so on Fridays during our win time, teachers and students are working through Character Strong. We have school-wide expectations that are visible and referred to in our building-wide initiatives. And then we recognize students with expectations through our buck slips, and we've incorporated special buck slips throughout the year for certain events. So you can see we have our buck slips there. We have a bus buck slip. We did a February Be Kind challenge for students who are caught being kind. Tomorrow we're doing JA Yes Day for junior achievement. So we have one for those to focus on those that the volunteers can hand out to students who they see are exhibiting those expectations. And finally, our March Madness one that we're doing right now throughout the month of March, focused on safety while the tournament's going on. And then finally, for PBIS, we have several opportunities to recognize students who have demonstrated safe, respectful, responsible behavior at the middle school. We have weekly buck slip drawings on the announcements. We have school movie rewards, Freeze Pop Fridays, and every once in a while, a magical unicorn shows up at the middle school, and I cannot confirm or deny if that is Dr. Metzinger in the unicorn.
But they do believe in unicorns now.
They do.
So one of the our last focus areas has been building our culture and community at GHMS. And so over the last month, the faculty and staff have been taking a look at AMELI, which is the Association for Middle Level Education, identifies the essential attributes of a middle school and also 18 characteristics of successful middle school. So we had a chance to take a look at these, specifically the three headings there you see: culture and community, curriculum, instruction, assessment, and leadership and organization, and see where that evidence is and where those practices lie in the middle school. And so that's sort of our starting work, and over the next couple of months, we'll be continuing that work as a faculty and taking a look at how we can continue to build our culture and vision at the middle school. The last piece for our TSI plan was, again, faculty PD and really looking at our Tier 1 strategies. And because we were identified in the ESL subgroup this year, we've provided a lot of training through our faculty meetings with Dr. Carmen Rao, and where she has provided monthly instructional strategies with our ESL teachers, providing examples. We've done some classroom walkthroughs with her and myself, and there in the pictures you can see some of our spotlights. The top pictures are from an ELA classroom where they're practicing a strategy called Categoria, and then the bottom pictures are from Mr. Richard's STEM class where they were practicing a because but so activity, where students were talking with each other and really digging into what they were working and problem solving their assignment. So we really appreciate this. Is just some of the foundational work that we've been doing at the middle school. We'll continue that and continue our work into next year.
In your PBIS focus, have you seen any results as far as less behavior transfers?
Absolutely. We've seen a lot of just student excitement and buy-in. They definitely have loved the different challenges through the month. But we've also seen areas where we need to pause and reteach and reboot certain expectations. Like Mr. Hollinger had said, we'll do another quick reboot after we come back from spring break here in a minute or next week, and just focus on a couple of the expectations that we need students to refocus on for the end of the year.
Any other questions?
That the voting data, the comparisons between some math fall and winter and then the overall reading, so that's good progress. I mean, that's what that's showing, right?
Yep, the CDT graph.
Yeah.
Yes, we've seen quite a bump from fall to winter.
Yeah.
And we will give the CDT one more time. Again, at the end of May, we're trying to get through testing, and we'll give one more snapshot. But that also gives us 2 years worth of growth. So we'll be able to see how students are. This is our second year giving it, so as we continue to give it, we'll be able to see over time as students are growing as well.
I think we'd probably like to see that after the next one too, that comparison. And then the going back to that data piece where the students will, because you had mentioned the parent-teacher conferences too. So when the students sit down, or after I guess the parents sit down with the teachers, the students can review the same data.
Mm-hmm.
We're all looking at the same data, parents, students, teacher, and the kids will understand their data as well. So I like that component a lot. I think that's cool.
All right,
Thank you. Appreciate your time. This is also the first time in our agenda where the public may make comments on any issues that are on the agenda. Would anyone like to approach the board? Is there anyone from CVEA that has anything to add? No? Or other employee groups? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Before we vote on it, I wanted to make a couple notes on it. Graduation date, if you didn't notice, is set for June 4th. The first reading of District 700 policies will have its second reading next month. And item M, the revised fuel charge as was requested, has been changed on that document. And I think that's it. Are there any other questions on consent agenda items? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve items A through M.
So moved.
Second.
Could we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Fisher?
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch?
Aye.
Mrs. Kapka?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Mr. Eby?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
Mrs. Groff?
Aye. Thank you. Our action discussion agenda will begin with the collective bargaining agreement. Dr. Hartman?
Sure, so, I'm pleased to have this as an agenda item this evening. It's been a lot of hard work over the past few months that have gone into this. You were given a copy of the tentative agreement between the school board and CVEA at our last meeting, so I'm here to answer any questions, but just a few comments, I'd like to make. It was really, I've been involved in collective bargaining for a while. This is probably the fourth contract in my career I've been involved on the administrative side of helping to negotiate. And really just want to say there's a strong spirit of collaboration between the Education Association, the school board representatives, and administration on trying to develop a CBA that really, I think, reflects the respect we have for our teachers, the hard work they do, and I think puts our district in a good position for the next 5 years to make us competitive within the county and regionally. So just really proud of the work the team did on this and happy to answer any questions the board may have before voting.
Mrs. Hunsinger, would you like to add anything?
No, I think he's said everything perfectly.
Ms. Hunsinger is really the wizard behind the numbers on it, so appreciate her hard work.
I would like to add that this is the first time I've ever done this. I never wanted to get involved because I always heard how antagonistic it could be. And this was not the case this time. It was truly a respectful, open discussion about all issues. There was no arguing. There was simply a negotiating back and forth to find out where we could find common ground. And I think we've come up with an agreement that puts us competitive with the rest of the county without feeling like we have to be, at the very top of the list, which was really important. And I think everybody got basically what they wanted in or out of this. There may be, there are always leftover issues, but I was pleased that it went as far as it did. And I personally need to thank publicly Mrs. Hunsinger for her expertise with the figuring. She kept it efficient, and Dr. Hartman for his expertise on administrative and on all the other programs that are involved. It made it very easy. If there are no questions, I will accept a motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement as presented.
I move we approve the collective bargaining agreement as presented.
Second.
Did I hear a second?
Yes.
Okay. We will need a roll call vote.
Mr. Hirsch?
Aye.
Mrs. Kapka?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Mr. Eby?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
Mrs. Fisher?
Aye.
Mrs. Groff?
Aye. Next is the comprehensive plan, Dr. Hartman and everybody.
Dr. Hartman and friends.
Yes, and friends. Dr. Mann is not here this evening.
Unfortunately, he had a conflict and was not able to be here. Similar, we decided to go not in the route of giving another presentation this evening because we feel we've talked about the comprehensive plan. We've provided the opportunity to put eyes on it. It's been once again, just comment, really appreciate the process of working through a steering committee that involved community stakeholders, not just teachers and administrators, but we had local business leaders, we had parents, we had other community stakeholders, board representation on. Just kind of the theme throughout was let's finish the job that we started with the last comprehensive plan. There are a lot of big goals, big ideas that came out of our last comprehensive plan, and we wanted to expand on those and go even further this time. So, Dr. Mann joined us right at the right moment. So, I'll turn it over to my team to make any comments, but mine are just, I think if you're looking for an overall theme of what's coming out of this comprehensive plan, it's we're finishing the job that we previously started, trying to cross the finish line on some of those big goals and those heavy lifts from the last comprehensive plan.
I'm glad to see Dr. Mann join us. In case you wondered, your absence was noted.
I appreciate that.
So I'll turn it over to the team for any comments they have before we open it up to questions.
Yeah, so two things. One, just to give you an update on the community input that we had put out. We've been putting out in the Buckskin Blast, all different venues. We did have 57 responses. 77% of those were parents and caregivers in the district. And so they were asked to rate what they felt were the top 3 most critical priority areas for the district to really focus on in the plan. Student achievement came out head and shoulders. Number 1, over 50% of the votes said we really want to see student growth and achievement as an outcome of this plan. The internships and work-based credentials came out as a high second, and then mental health and social emotional learning came out as the 3rd most important topic. So that was really good for us to see the thumb on the pulse of what's happening with families and caregivers and where they're seeing the biggest needs are and where we should put the most time and attention. In the comments sections, I was really surprised by how many comments around the partnerships, internships, dual enrollment, college and the high school classes. Lots of people saying, hey, keep going on these things. We want different options for our kiddos as they go through the system. And then we had, I kind of just hit the ones that have multiple themes to them around screen time and around devices and wanting to know a little bit more about how devices are being used and how much time students are spending on those online programs. So that was interesting. That came up in a couple of the comments from the caregivers. But really, the rest of the comments then were individual topics or specific feedback. But it was helpful to get that high level, knowing that, all right, we're on the right place. A lot of what we have in here is really focused on bolstering student growth and achievement in the district, bringing in those partnerships, and continuing with our PBIS work that you just heard about from the middle school. So the second piece is just knowing what you're looking at here. And
Would you
Yeah, go
repeat
ahead.
what those 3 things were?
Sure. Student achievement was number 1. Internships and work-based credentials was number 2. And then mental health and social emotional learning.
Thank you.
So the actual documents that we submit to the state are all of these attachments up here that we had shared with the board. So the CV comp plan for board approval, that's the big document that goes into the detailed action steps, timelines. But then all of those other assurances and plans, we also need to have approval and sign off on before we go ahead and submit that up to PDE. So those are the pieces where we're certifying that we're implementing school code according to the standards in the state, the assessments that are required in school code, gifted education, student services. We had to redo our induction plan based on some new things in school code this year. And then you also have the professional development plan, which is the last document that is required as part of this process. So those, it was interesting to see those all boiled down into a couple of attachments because of how much time, effort, and conversation goes into getting those PDFs up on the screen. And I was like, oh, that's it. That looks really simple, but the process was thorough and complex, we'll say that. So all of those get approved as part of the comprehensive plan. We don't need to individually do those, just one approval of the comprehensive plan, but know that those documents go up with the plan.
My question would be, and I was not about to get down into the weeds of setting last year's beside this one, but I do know that we did get a report at some point that showed how we were doing with all those action plans. Some were completed, some were well on the way, some were not yet started. Did you use that and carry all of those over? So there's nothing that wasn't done before that isn't still on our agenda?
That was the very first comprehensive plan meeting we had.
Right.
We pulled up and we showed the team, here's what's left, here's the work that still needs to be finished on the current plan, here's what we'll be carrying over into the new plan.
Some of the adjustment would be, if you remember, in the prior plan, we had 4 areas of focus.
Yeah.
This one has 3. So,
You
doing
kept
some
that
massaging,
same
and pulling some things
outline,
together.
so you don't lose those action plans.
Mhm.
One of the other ones that you'll see in April or May it can be May now, is our trauma plan is complete. And that was part of an action plan that we had in the last comp plan, that we would be developing the trauma plan. So you'll be seeing that at the end of the school year. So that will not be part of an action plan moving forward. Does that mean the trauma plan stops? No. That means that we continue to work on it, we keep revising it, and we keep adding to it. But it is a document now, it's a living document.
Are any of the action plans that you completed still picked up to go farther with them? Or were they changed?
To extend them, yeah, oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
nothing like
So completed doesn't necessarily mean
over.
gone.
It's completed for that first 3-year period. That doesn't mean that it is systemically embedded into the
Oh,
work that we
okay.
do. And so there
Okay.
were some that we said, all right, we did what we said we were gonna do in 3 years.
Right.
But to really have it take root in the system, we need to do some more work with it in this plan.
And there were some items in the first plan that was like, the goal in the last comprehend was based around, I use the term research and development, developing the plan, where now it's time to implement, measure,
Yeah.
monitor.
Okay.
And there are some new elements in the plan. We wanted a component that addressed AI, since that's on our doorstep right now. So we were able to weave that into innovative practices and forming a task force to look into that around policy in there. So it's not completely just a continuation. We looked at some new emerging trends as well.
Yeah, I noticed that AI showed up not as much in the goals as in the action plan.
Right.
Now, Mrs. Kapka, you were on that committee. Would you like to add anything?
Not really. I was on the first 2 meetings. I couldn't make the later meetings where they really got narrowed it down to everybody's ideas that were coming in, and it was nice and refreshing. They were all kind of on the same path. So where everybody wanted to go with community members, everyone was thinking along the same lines of where to gear this training.
Did you serve on one of the subgroups?
The first couple meetings, I don't know the last two, but yeah, you got to pick a subgroup that you were more interested in.
Yeah.
So that you could talk about a topic you maybe have more experience in, for those 2 meetings. So it was a nice split, people picking up their interests.
I hope it was worth your time.
Yeah, so it was very informative. I wish I could have made the other 2, but just didn't have it.
Those, for public input, those 3, like the top 3, I'm sure we probably would have gotten the public input for the last comprehensive plan then. Do you remember what they're, like, the top 3 community? I'm just curious, I was curious how
I
that
was
shifted
not
at
here
all.
for that one,
Yeah.
Mark.
I can dig it out, I have it,
Okay.
but I can't,
That was just a curiosity thing, if there was any, I'm
not
sure
the
a
top
lot of it.
3.
I imagine the top 2 were probably the same, I didn't know if
Yeah.
the bottom one was a newer one, cause that's kind of been one of
Yeah.
the topics for the last couple of years for sure.
Although-
Post-COVID.
Right.
Yeah, do you think that, I'm sure it does, but do you think that the plan, based on the comments from the public, from those that did, and with those being the top 3, do you think that the plan definitely supports the concerns that those people put forth, took time to put forth?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Actually,
Can I
I'll
ask,
take that
Did-
back.
Did
Oh,
you,
sorry.
you also had this posted for public comment after the fact. Did you get much feedback in the final document?
Well, so this was, the 57 responses were on the public
Oh, that was
comment
afterwards.
posting of the highlights.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I thought that was beforehand.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, this
I
was,
got it.
no, this was the 28-day review period.
I feel a little lost.
Mhm.
When I read this, I couldn't figure out what the comprehensive plan was. Is there going to be, is that
Yes.
what's coming?
Well, so the document that says CV comp plan for board approval, actually Kathy, on page 27 is where I usually go. That's the action plan. That's the meat of it. So your first many pages are a big summary of all the data that we looked at to figure out, what are those root causes that have emerged. Page 27 is where you really get into the key focus areas and what we're going to do. So it has your goal, and then it has your action steps for each of those priority areas. So last month, we shared with you the highlights document that gave you the really high level. Now you can actually see the really specific action steps, who's gonna take the lead on it, when are those gonna be completed? That's on page 27, on.
In the idea of what you want to do and how you want to do it, what they gave us last month were they listed the goals. And I think for each of the sections, there was 1 or 2 goals. That's the part I think where the board looks most closely. After that, it's how they're going to do that. And it is easy to get lost in all of that. Some of it is a little
We get lost.
beyond our understanding, and if you get lost in the alphabet soup, that's a great place to get lost. But we are approving the entire document.
Yes. And we will put out an executive summary. We'll have this in a much more easy to read format that will be up on the website. So people who just want to get the gist of what we're doing can look at that document. People who want to go deep into the work can look at the full document.
Full documents, what's produced by there's an online portal that we have to go in through the state and complete that and answer all these questions and put upload certain data and content, and it spits it out in that template. It's not the most user-friendly format, in my opinion. The portal's great. I think that's a great tool the state's that really helps districts. But to print out like a nice final version of a document that's good for public consumption, it's just not there to do that. So the idea of coming up with an executive summary is something we've talked about.
It is helpful that it's in chart form. So if you skip the last columns, which are the action plans, and look at the first column or 2, you get a good sense of where their focus is. And then the last is just how they're about to do it. An executive summary, I look forward to that. That will be an excellent idea. Any other questions or concerns about the comprehensive plan? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve it.
Motion to approve the comprehensive plan.
Second.
We have a motion to second.
Phil. This Phil.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? If not, it will go in the record as a unanimous vote. Thank you for all of your work,
Thank you.
past and future. Dr. Hartman, the IU budget.
Sure. And I'm sure you might be able to speak to this better than I can, the IU, but just for your approval tonight is the general operating budget proposal from IU 13. Just to provide a few highlights, what is presented to the board is the general operating budget. It's not the entire list of revenues that the IU produces. Actually, it only represents about 2% of those. So it really is your core program services and your instructional media services. Looks like the impact on districts is about a 2% increase over what last year's budgeted amount was. So happy to answer any questions or defer them to Ms. Groffus or IU representative.
I'm
Came out a little later.
understanding their budget, they have 23 separate budgets. And each of them sits on a committee, and just following our budget, we might have 20 programs, each with a budget within that department. It's a huge organization. What I am most impressed with every year is that they continue to grow, they continue to offer more services, but they're able to do it in very small increases. I will add this year, in addition to the my regular IU, is that they're growing and there are more schools sending more kids to IU programs. And we all know what that's going to mean. Eventually, they will reach their maximum. They've already added new teachers in the early childhood and special education. They've had to add another director to cover it all. But they do an excellent job in maintaining a conservative budget, in my opinion. We will put that on the consent agenda for next month. Dr. Mann, you have an agreement for temporary technology support.
I do. So what you have in front of you is an agreement with IU13 to provide us some, as Mrs. Groff just said, temporary technology support between now and the end of June, as we work through some staffing and other challenges that we have. So looking for approval on that.
They have an excellent tech department over
They do.
there.
Yeah, we're very, very, very fortunate in that regard. I was a little not hesitant, but concerned that they wouldn't be able to support us, but they have this.
They offer tech services all over the state.
Very strong.
Would you like a motion?
Yes.
Any questions? No? I move that we approve the IU13 agreement for temporary technology support.
Second.
We will need a roll call vote for this one.
Mrs. Capta?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Mr. Eby?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
Mrs. Fisher?
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch?
Aye.
Mrs. Groff?
Aye. Thank you. Are there any questions on the finance and operations report? Any concerns on the curriculum and instruction report? Are there any federal funds, Dr. Hart?
No reports.
If not, I think I pretty well covered with the budget, what's happening at the IU. We do have, I will let you know, a job description that was released, I think yesterday, to bring back the position of Assistant Executive Director. It's gotten huge. We've added, if you remember, 2 new buildings, complete elementary schools, one in Lebanon, one here in Mannheim. And we would like to have, when the time comes, it's not imminent, a smoother transition to our next executive director. This is a discussion we have had since before we hired Matt Stam. And it finally got to the critical point where we do need to add this one administrator. We had them before, and when our last executive director came in an attempt to be more efficient and more compact, he left that position empty, and now it's time to bring it back. So just so you know that that's out there. My PSBA report, I think, pretty much speaks for itself. I don't think there's anything especially new or exciting. I will mention that Dr. Newman, the Secretary of Education, is coming out strongly to support Governor Shapiro's budget for education. On the federal level, they've asked for a 3.9% in federal support. They lack even more so than the state does in support. But as with both state and federal budgets, you never know until the legislatures decide what it'll be. So I don't make any expectations. I have no report from Lancaster County Academy at this time. CTC, anything happening over there?
Yeah, a little bit real quick. Last meeting in February, actually, Phil Eby was able to attend also and meet everybody there. They're redoing their whole website and social media front in May or June. They think it's gonna come out, so more modernized and easier, user-friendly and stuff, so they're really excited about that. Fly on the Run fundraiser, which is their biggest fundraiser of the year, is May 8th and 9th. And also, a little interesting fact, Rep. Lloyd Smucker visited the CTCs in February, toured them and talked to students and staff and stuff, and they were really excited about that, so wanted to mention that.
Are they looking forward to a budget that's more friendly to the CTCs?
Hoping.
Hoping, yeah.
Yeah, hoping.
My other question is, do they have any plans to address the number of students at their capacity? Because I know we always have
Yes,
students that have to take a second choice or have to go on a wait list.
Correct. They're actually going through right now in rearranging some of their classrooms at the schools to make some programs bigger, give them more room, and eliminating some of the ones that are not. But they don't have all the details out of that yet. They're going through the whole planning
Will that
stage
be
of that
for
right
next
now.
year?
They're hoping so,
Oh,
but I'll keep you updated on
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Construction team, any news?
Nothing really new,
Nothing to new.
no.
No news is good news.
Yeah, the last one was last Monday. The last meeting was last Monday. I don't know what I just said, but it didn't sound
That's
like that.
okay.
And new Smoketown is looking great. Final touches down there, which is awesome. Ken's confident, so that makes us confident, which looks good. Still a couple things they're working out from the middle school, just cleaning up some of that stuff. But we all know we'll be talking about that till 2045. I'm just kidding, that's not for the record. But other than that, we're doing good. And then the bids for Leola and all that stuff everything's moving and grooving there, so.
When did they do the last summer? Do you
What are the
know?
bids do? I think it's all gotta be finalized by May.
By May?
I think that was the word, so.
Okay,
Yeah, we're in the process of that. They're getting everything arranged because that's gonna start in the fall, so.
okay. Board members should sit on other committees, any reports back. Can I ask if those of you that serve on other committees feel as if you're being notified when they have meetings? Have we done better with that? Good. Then we're at the point in the meeting, again, where anyone who would like to address the board on any issue is welcome to come forward. If not, are there any board announcements or initiatives?
I have one.
I know.
Okay, I would like to bring up a possible addition to our policy 123, for those of you who don't know. Our 123 is our interscholastic athletics policy. I would like to propose that we add language that our girls' contact sports, high and low contact, will not face an opposing team that has a trans female player due to safety concerns and fairness of competition for our players.
Based on those two issues.
Yes.
May I ask, in your recommendation, does it say who will oversee this part of the policy? Do the teams decide, is the athletic director, who has to say, who has to check it out, and who has to decide if there is an issue to be addressed?
Well, I don't know, because I don't wanna violate HIPAA, I don't wanna do any of that with the other schools. But people talk, there's gonna be, so that, I don't have an answer for that.
Okay.
That is a
All right,
issue.
I asked Diana to bring this up at the meeting first because it's one of those issues that I feel the board has to decide if it's an issue they're interested in addressing. So right now, I've laid out what your choices are. Number one is do nothing. Say, we don't even want to talk about this, and that's all right. If you feel we're okay where we are, we won't even bring it up. We could make a new policy altogether. Although Diana suggested we simply add to the policy that we had. And the fourth choice would be if we would decide that we want to address it, but not in policy, and could ask to have it put into the athletic guidelines. That is a huge policy that covers eligibility, rules and regs of practices and games, discipline, consequences, and then it would not be in policy, but it would be embedded in those guidelines. So we could handle it any one of those four ways. What would you like to do? Do you want to pass on this? Do you want to consider?
I think it's worth discussing.
I'm sorry, what?
It's worth discussing. Yeah, just to dive into a little bit further.
Okay, so two of you want to discuss it.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah, we'll
discuss it.
discuss it.
Okay, I will put it on next month's agenda. And if you want to come up with some sort of sample wording that is what you like, so we have some starting point, we'll deal with it then, okay? Thank you.
Is there a location that we can see the athletic guidelines? Is that,
I'm sorry.
the athletic guidelines that you mentioned possibly adding to that, is there a location that I can read them and see what they?
You have to speak up, this is a little formal.
We can look at to see if there's admin regs that we have that correspond with our
Well,
policy.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned like athletic guidelines. I was wondering if there's where I can go to read the athletic
Yes,
guidelines that we currently
if you
have.
go on the website, by departments under athletics,
It's on
I
there.
think you'll find them there. Am I right?
I'd have to defer to
Yeah, I'm
to
pretty
our athletic
sure.
department on that one.
There are, it's the eligibility, or it's the code of conduct, it's the extracurricular code of conduct. If you go to the, although I don't know if that's where we would put this in particular, but you can read about eligibility, academic eligibility, attendance.
Well, it's not for
behavior.
our players, it's for the other team, like, do our players play the other team? Like, I'm not concerned about our players' eligibility.
Yeah.
So, that's
So,
okay, that,
yeah,
so probably won't be at the code of conduct.
Well, I brought that up thinking if they did want to put it in policy, they could ask to have something put in there as to how it would be handled.
That's why
Okay.
I wanna look at all the options.
Okay. The dates for next month's meeting are posted. If there are any questions, if not, I will take a motion to adjourn to executive session for legal and personnel reasons.
So moved.
Second?
Who was the second?
Not me.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye, and major objection, we are adjourned. Thank you all.